How is this the first time we've had a dog make an appearance on the show?
How is mine before yours?
That's what I'm saying. I just took mine out.
What a cutie.
Oh, Mags. And we welcome you to the conference championship preview episode of Wilk and Wish, your bi-weekly update on Utah athletes in the National Football League. Tanner Wilkinson with you, Cole Wissinger with you, and we have a returning guest, the man who was aroused by Saquon Barkley's reverse hurdle. Spencer Gentry joins us on the program today. Gentry, how are you, man? I imagine you're feeling pretty good with being the betting Super Bowl favorite. And maybe not. Maybe that's not a good thing when you become the betting favorite at this point of the year. But how are you, my man?
I'm good. It's been a fun season. It feels like the Saquon season, it just so I don't know if this is like too mushy gushy, but just so grateful that he is on my team. I found a local pub here in Cincinnati that's like an Eagles bar restaurant. And I found that after going to the Bengals Eagles game, I got handed like a little business card it's called the Midwest Eagles Nest. And so finding that spot, they're going to sell out the whole restaurant to Eagles fans this week. Um, that's one of the cool parts of, Eagles fans kind of get the they kind of have the what do you
They
say?
threw
The
snowballs at Santa Claus that one time.
right, yeah, they kind of have that
The bad
sort
rap.
of rap, yeah. And so, but it's like one of my friends said, you can find Eagles fans in any city. So it's just felt like a special season, and to be able to go to this restaurant that's going to sell out this week, it's just been really fun. Being betting favorites for the Super Bowl is scary to me, and so I'm definitely nervous.
The reason you probably get the betting favorite is because it's such an overwhelming favorite to get to the Super Bowl in the first place, right?
Hmm.
I mean, once you get to Super Bowl weekend, they might not be favored against either of these
Right.
individual AFC teams, but because it seems like when you're going against a team that you've beaten before, you can at least get there. That's the safe bet right now.
Right. Yeah, I definitely don't think like going into if we make it to the Super Bowl, I don't know that. I mean, we might. I'm more nervous about the Bills. I'd rather play the Chiefs, to be honest. Just from a who do I think we could beat standpoint. Who would I rather lose to? I'd rather lose to the Bills in the Super Bowl. But I think we have a better shot to beat the Chiefs.
Real quick, Cole and I didn't get to do a recap episode last week. When you move into a new house, obviously you need internet. And Cole, the moves happen, man. You're in. You're
Yeah,
in the house, which is
different background.
fantastic. Yeah. So real quick, obviously, I mean, and everyone knows the results by this. Anyone that listens to this show obviously knows what happened by this point.
Right.
Kansas City beats Houston. Only Utah connection in that one. Dalton Schultz had a great game, 4 catches, 63 yards, but it wasn't enough for Kansas City. The Commanders obviously go off against Detroit, score 45 points, which is just mind blowing. What Jaden Daniels did. Bobby Wagner had 8 tackles in that game for the Commanders, and then on the losing side for Detroit, Penei Sewell still had a really good game, obviously, and he's just been a phenomenal guy all year. Tim Patrick did have the 1 catch for 22 yards. Philly beats the Rams 28-22 in a snowy game. Puka Nacua had another great game, 6 catches, 97 yards for the Rams there. And then in Bills Ravens, looking at for Buffalo, Dalton Kincaid just had an 11-yard reception defensively. Taron Johnson had 3 tackles and a pass breakup. Cole Bishop had 3 tackles for Buffalo, and then Kyle Van Noy, who is now going to the Pro Bowl, uh, which is kind of exciting for my guy KVN. He finished the game with 3 tackles, half a sack, and 2 QB hits. Just a quick recap there to get to where we're at now. So,
And that
um,
sets up conference championship weekend featuring the Birds and their division rivals, the Washington Commanders, right? They split the season series, both game, but especially that second game, right down to the wire. Fantastic matchup. And it's a matchup that we now get to see again from one team that faltered down the stretch last year, but in the offseason, they add a couple pieces. Turns out every piece they added worked, and they had yet another amazing Howie Roseman offseason with the draft and everything else. And a team that, you wouldn't have been crazy if you thought they were the 32nd best team in the NFL coming into this season. Like Cliff Kingsbury included, and Dan Quinn included, and Jaden Daniels included, and yet all of that has somehow worked too. And these two teams have taken two different paths through the same division to get to championship weekend.
It's crazy. Looking back on the Commanders, like where we had a Commander fan on, last week and Jackson Payne. Um, man, that franchise has just been through so much, and the rest of this is gravy at this point, right? But it's like on Deal or No Deal, how greedy do you get when that $1 million is sitting in one of those cases still, and you're down to just a couple cases, right? Um, it was getting to that point. I think, looking at from a BYU fan standpoint, right? Like that was like, hey, anything over 6 wins is amazing. The rest of this is gravy. But then the closer you got to potentially playing for a conference championship, potentially going to the playoff, the greedier you start to get, the harder it is when your heart gets broken at the very end. So, no, this is definitely going to be fascinating. Spencer, want your opinion where they split the season series and now are playing for a third time. Does that give you more confidence knowing that, oh, they gave us their best shot in one of these games earlier? Are you more confident that the series is 1-1 than it would be had the Eagles gone 2-0 against Washington in the regular season?
I think the thing that makes me, I guess you could say, more confident with going one-on-one in that game, the second game where Jalen Hurts goes out pretty early on in the game, and Saquon's rushing numbers, I mean, his yards per carry went down to, I believe, below 2 once Jalen went out. Um, just seeing, I feel like Washington had to show their hand there. Like, how are you going to play us if Jalen's not in or if Jalen's hurt, which Jalen's hurt this week? Um, so I just have supreme confidence in Jeff Stoutland. I think he's the best assistant coach in the league, the offensive line coach for the Eagles. And so him seeing that that's how they stopped us when Jalen wasn't in there or we were limited. I think he's going to put together like a running game plan because obviously right now Saquon's basically our offense. Um, so if we didn't have that time where we kind of had to see what it was like when Saquon got shut down, and now we can develop a game plan. I think that's the part that makes me more confident. Going one-on-one, I think you can almost to a certain extent throw both games out because the first game Jaden Daniels was hurt and wasn't playing as good as he is playing now or as good as he was playing before he was hurt. And then the second game, Jalen Hurts goes out after 2 passes. So to a certain extent, I think you can almost throw both games out.
There's a very interesting matchup. You talk about the two quarterbacks, and the assistant coaches in this game I think are going to be fascinating, and we got a little bit from both sides because Tanner, you've seen Cliff Kingsbury up close and personal, and now a year of the Vic Fangio experience, he's been kind of punted around the league a little bit because and his assistants was very in vogue, and the too high stuff that he invented or whatever. It stopped Mahomes that one time in one game in Chicago, and all kinds of coaches have gotten jobs for it. And how I want to know how you both think that matchup will play. How Cliff Kingsbury likes to spread it out, but sometimes attack with bubble screens and that little stuff. That they'll try a couple deep, but Vic Fangio is all about stopping those couple deeps. How does that balance out?
Um, I think that I mean that if you think back to the second game with Terry McLaurin, he had a huge game against us. But game one, he had I think one catch for like 17 yards or something. Um, and so what's the kind of where's the happy medium there? Are we gonna is it gonna be another kind of shutdown Terry McLaurin game? I mean, Terry McLaurin's run against the Lions, the catch and run, the screen kind of that you're talking about. I mean, that was just so awesome for him to kind of dive through those two Detroit defenders and then fight off Kirby Joseph. That was just I mean, even as a non-Commanders fan, that got me hyped. That was pretty awesome. But I think it'll come down to like Jaden Daniels' deep ball placement is just elite. Um, So how is Quinion Mitchell's coverage going to be on Terry McLaurin? I would love if Vic Fangio had him follow Terry McLaurin, but that's just not Vic Fangio's way of doing things.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, but also Terry McLaurin, I don't know if this is a Cliff Kingsbury thing, but Terry McLaurin doesn't switch sides of the offense very much.
So
So like
that's a very Cliff thing. Yeah.
Very much a
that
Cliff thing.
first the first game, he like never switched sides, and so Quinion was on him a bunch. So I don't know what the give and take's going to be there. Are they going to switch Terry different sides? Is Quinion just going to stay on one side? I think that's very interesting.
And my thoughts, having Cliff as a head coach previously, look, I like Kyler Murray a lot. I think Kyler Murray's right in the middle pack of quarterbacks right now. I think it's safe to say this far into his career, he's somewhere between maybe 14 and 18 if you were to rank all 32 starting quarterbacks. You know what you're getting at this point from Kyler Murray. The reason that Cliff has looked good this year as a coordinator is Jaden Daniels. Like it is 100% on how elite Jaden. I've never been this wrong about a quarterback prospect before. I thought Jaden Daniels could be a very good starting quarterback if he sat for a year. No, bro. Like I have never been more wrong about a take in my entire life than maybe this Jaden Daniels one. So if Cliff gets another job, it's not going to go well because he won't have Jaden Daniels with him. I think that's really what it comes down to. And sure, Cliff's always been a great play caller. That's never been the issue. He was a great play caller at Texas Tech. I thought I liked his play calling in Arizona. It was the game management head coaching side that he was not good at. But the reason this has worked so well simply comes down to the fact that Jaden Daniels, is he the best quarterback in the NFC already? Like, I mean, that's the real debate that's been going on social media the last 2 weeks. It really helps when you just have a guy, when you have the horses to run. Cole and I talk about that a lot in our day-to-day broadcasting, right? In high school sports. It's
Yeah.
you can have the best high school coach in the world, but if you don't have the dogs, if you don't have the horses to run, and this is obviously
Mm.
much different because it's the NFL, but even then you get down to a very
I mean,
specific breed
the
of
Lions
horses.
ran out of dudes to be able to tackle anyone on defense, and that's why we get to the point where a wild card team is in the NFC Championship game at this point. One playoff run does not an elite quarterback make, because the last time that the Eagles played it could potentially be the Chiefs again, but the last time the Eagles played the Chiefs, Jalen Hurts had one of the best games on the biggest stage any quarterback's ever had. And now Jalen Hurts is kind of back down into that, between 12th and 18th best quarterback. They don't ask him to do a lot, and he delivers when he needs to, but doesn't seem like he brings a lot special to the game during this year. And yet we've
Yeah.
seen him play at that elite level too. So I'm not ready to like ascend Jaden Daniels all the way there, but it has been a remarkable run and we've enjoyed it.
I tweeted out that I might be a prisoner of the moment, but I think I am ready to ascend. I mean, Jaden Daniels, man, he is just I'm supposed to hate this guy for the next 10 years. And he's just like he's so good at football, but then he's just so likable. Like this dude is just so humble, so likable. I can't hate him. Like and to be completely honest with you, this is not a shot at the Commanders, but they just haven't in my lifetime, they haven't been that good ever. So my hatred to them is not on the level of the Cowboys or even the
Oh,
Giants.
you can
And
make
so
you
it's
can make all the shots at the Dan Snyder Redskins that you want, but this
r-
version of the Washington
right.
football team now,
Right,
come on.
yeah. So it's just one of those things where I just really like him. I'll be really upset if we lose, but I was telling some friends just this week, I was just like, I'm just glad he's not on the Cowboys. Like, at least he's on the Commanders. Like, they kind of deserve it. I have some family. I'm in a fantasy football league, two brothers, and they're huge Washington football team fans and have been for so long. So it's fun to see them happy. I mean, I think this fan base deserves it. I know I'm supposed to hate him, but that's really how I feel. I think Jaden Daniels, like, what a likable person. And maybe down the road, I'll end up hating him and be like, how did I ever like him? But right now, like, dude is just, he's everything in a bag of chips, in my opinion. And I'm totally probably a prisoner of the moment, but I'm bought in on Jaden Daniels.
Well, let's make some picks here. Uh, the Commanders, who stole the Cowboys' defensive coordinator in Dan Quinn, Dallas decides to promote their offensive coordinator. Speaking of the Cowboys, so Brian Schottenheimer is going to be the head coach. Yeah, I was waiting for it. I was waiting for it. I meant to text my dad last night, but when I finally got done with my game, it was 11 Eastern. So I'll have to text him this morning and see how he feels about that as a fellow Eagles fan. Commanders at Eagles. I like Philadelphia a lot in this game. Spencer. I like your take on it being a wash because there were some wonky things that happened in those first two matchups. I just think at this point, at some point, Washington's magic's got to run out. And I think it's against a team that's just been so well built. I think Jalen Carter his playoff run has been severely under talked about because of how great Saquon's been. Jalen Carter's been almost as good defensively, just a wrecking ball. Went back and looked at that draft the other day. He probably should have gone second overall behind CJ Stroud if you really look at the rest of those guys. The fact that he plummeted the way he did because of quote unquote work ethic or love of the game or whatever, give Howie Roseman a lifetime contract just for taking Jalen Carter and not having to even trade, not panicking and trading up, but just
Hmm.
knowing who to take. I think Jalen Carter has a big game. I like the Birds.
Go Birds. Yeah, I the Commanders' run has been fun, and we keep picking against them. And I even mentioned on this show last week that that Lions Commanders game was just rife for that graphic that you see where everyone's picking the Lions, but the Commanders get to tweet it out because they and we saw that everyone did pick the Lions, but also everyone's going to pick against the Commanders again here, and it's fun if they keep it going, but I don't know how much juice is left there.
I hate that everybody's picking the Eagles. It makes me so nervous.
Mm-hmm.
Just sets up for such big disappointment. I'm being an Eagles and growing up a BYU fan. That's just my life. Disappointment in my fandom. But I'm actually really close to picking the Commanders. I'm going to go with the Eagles. I think the spread's like 6.5. I think the Commanders cover that. I wouldn't be shocked at all if the Commanders win. I texted a friend yesterday that this might just be one of those special seasons for Jaden Daniels, and really no one's gonna stop him, and we're just the
Yeah.
speed bump in his way. And we'll look back and be like, the Eagles were favored by 6.5. That's crazy. But looking at the game before it starts, that line still makes me a little nervous, but I got the Eagles, but I got the Commanders covering, and I think it'll be a close game. And if we give Jaden Daniels the ball back with 2 minutes or more, I'm gonna be shaking in my boots. So I hope we have the ball last and it's a Saquon get down into field goal range. And man, that means Jake Elliott would kick. Maybe we just give it to Saquon and he just goes in for a touchdown with like 10 seconds left.
Yeah, even if the Commanders have 5 turnovers in a game, if Jaden Daniels touches the ball last, nothing's guaranteed. All right, that's the NFC. AFC championship. It is how it always was going to be, despite the Chiefs all season just barely squeaking out these one-score games, and despite the Bills in the offseason getting rid of their whole team and going into a big reset. Chiefs Bills yet again. The Bills always get it in the regular season. Chiefs always get it in the postseason. I'm going to take the Chiefs.
I've said a lot this year. I don't like picking against Kansas City until it becomes a consistent thing, right? Like they continue to prove time and time again they're not going anywhere. They're not, they're not gonna be the team. They're not the team you just don't pick against them. And for all the talk of they're not as good, their offense isn't as explosive. They don't care. The Kansas City Chiefs do not care how they play the game, just that they do enough to win the game. That being said, there is something different about this Buffalo team. There is something different about Josh Allen this year. The camaraderie, the vibes. If not now, when Buffalo is going to the Super Bowl. And I want to see the two best players on the planet play each other in Saquon and Josh Allen. I think they're the two best players in football, along with Lamar. You can throw Lamar in there, but I want that matchup really, really bad.
Yeah, I kind of like I mentioned with Jaden Daniels, I feel like this is just one of those special seasons for Josh Allen. And I like what you said, Tanner, like if not this season, when the Chiefs look so, susceptible, even though they keep winning, it's weird to say that they look susceptible with their record and they just win and they just win and they just win. But one of their losses in the regular season did come to the Bills, and what they beat them by 10, something like that. I think this is
It was
just
the only legitimate loss, right? Like this was a
right.
one-loss team until the last week, and they bench all their guys. And Josh Allen, right up the middle on fourth down, gave him the loss.
Which, yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's a special Josh Allen season. He's been freed from Stephon Diggs. He, Khalil. I was thinking about this matchup, and I was like, their like go-to receiver is like Khalil Shakir, which just when you look at it, from if you were to say that 2 years ago, you'd be like, how did the Bills let that happen? But they have a first round receiver they drafted. They have Amari Cooper, who's been like MIA. That's been weird. But Khalil Shakir is just an automatic like 10 yards. It feels like every time he's targeted.
Well, if
But
you said
yeah,
it 4 years, you'd say he's an upgrade over Cole Beasley at least. Like this is how Josh Allen made his ascendance, was with nobody.
right. Yeah, so I got the Bills. I think the spread's like a point and a half. So you're basically just picking who wins the game. I got the Bills.
There you have it. Oh, I might love Conference Championship Sunday more than I love Super Bowl Sunday because it's the last time that we have like a full day, quote unquote, of football. Gentry, best of luck, man. As you watch the Birds, I know my dad's going to be pretty nervous there. Let's just pencil this in now. If we get an Eagles Bills Super Bowl, we need to have you back on the show. We need to have my dad back on the show. My buddy Brant, who's a Bills fan, who joined us, and our all three mutual friend, the Tomsters, we need to do a massive preview show if we do get Bills and Bills and Eagles. So
Sign me up.
we'll pencil it in. So Cole, congrats on getting moved in.
Thank
I have not. My wife and I moved 3 times in the first year we were married, just like apartment kind of moving around and stuff. Actually, it was technically 4 times because we lived in my grandma's basement for a few weeks. But I digress. Moving stinks. We've only done it twice since in the 8 years, so I know that's a stressful thing. So, congrats on the new house, man, and hope both you gentlemen enjoy Conference Championship Sunday.
Thanks, fellas.
It's going to be a great week.
Once again, this has been Wilk and Wiss, your bi-weekly update on Utah athletes in the National Football League. We hope you have a great Conference Championship weekend, and we'll be previewing the Super Bowl a little bit for you next week and recapping all this on Monday.